and then photochrome. Short, they call it chrome. So 1930 to 1945 was linen, and then 1945 to present is chrome. Today is on Postcard ERAs. There's a couple things you need to really get down when you first start into postcards. One of them is you need to know the Postcard ERAs. There's a few things about them that will differentiate pricing, how you deal with them, and answer questions to customers, and plus when you go to look and source. The next one I'll be talking about later on in different Widget Wednesday videos is inventory, scanners, listing templates. Do you use 6-bit? Do you use eBay templates? How to mail them, how to pack them, and different things like that I'll hit on, but these are going to be higher level videos that it's going to just get your curiosity. I've done some longer videos on these eras for each of the chrome, linen, and stuff like that. You can go watch, but this is going to just be a summary of them, and that's what these videos will do. Real quick, in and out, and we'll be done. But let's talk postcard eras. Now there's postcard eras and postcard types. How I differentiate them, like continental postcards are chrome to me, but they're bigger chromes. Real photos is a type of postcard, but they have a divided back and different things like that. So there's type and there's eras. We're going to talk about the eras. These are defined eras in the postcard collecting environment. Now there is crossover on some of them, like I'll talk about when we get to undivided backs and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and take a look at what they are. There's a couple I'm not going to hit a lot on. One for sure, because I don't see them a lot, and I got a whole video on those too, but I'm going to key on ones I use. But the first one out there that they defined was Pioneer, and that was from 1893 to 1898 when they were manufactured. Next one we're going to talk about is private mailing card, and you'll see that Act of Congress and stuff on there. 1898, 1901. Then from 1901 to 1907 there was undivided back. You couldn't write a message on the back during that time. Everybody in Europe and stuff were doing it. Tuck was out there trying to get everything to change. Then in 1907 they changed the law. You can write on the back in the message area and the address. They split it in the back, and the front was just for the picture. So that was the divided back. That was a big change that really made postcards go. Between 1908 and 1912, golden age of postcards, there were billions of postcards bought and mailed during that time. So 1907 to 1915 divided back. White border we're going to get into, probably one of the most elusive in requirements. In there, a lot of people think a linen card with a white border is a white border. Yeah, it's got a white border, but it's not the era. We'll talk about that. Linen cards came out, and then photochrome. Short, they call it chrome. So 1930 to 1945 was linen, and then 1945 to present is chrome. So those are the ones we're going to talk about through here in the next 15 or so minutes. Pioneer era postcards. I'm not really going to talk about this. I have a whole video out there on Pioneer. It was the Wild Wild West when postcards first started. They were real simple illustrations, couldn't write on the front, or had to write on the front, not on the back. But I don't come across them that often. I might have missed some, but check out that video and it'll give you that. The next one, era, and there is private mailing card from 1898 1901. Now the characteristics of private mailing cards, the era began when the U.S. government allowed private companies to produce postcards. Before, the government could only do that with the postal cards and stuff. But then they said, oh, private companies can do it, and that really opened the postcard printing business, and mailing and buying them really kick-started things, which had to be labeled private mailing card on the back. I think there was an Act of Congress and stuff on there. The address side was still reversed, reserved for only the address. You couldn't write on the back except the address, and any messages had to be written on the front side of the card or the image. I don't have an example of that, but the other ones going forward I'll have an examples, but you can see private mailing card. It just says private mailing card on there. Be careful with some reproductions that say private mailing card. You'll know just from the type of paper and pretty much that it's a private mailing card. But the typical themes for that type of card in this era included scenic views, cityscapes, promotional images, and it had limited space for personal messages. And you're going to see that as I go through the characteristics and stuff, how it grew. Now the next era is undivided back. And what do they mean by that? Postcards during this time featured an undivided back, meaning the entire back of the card was designated for the recipient address only. Messages were typically written on the front alongside the image. Now, this is an undivided back. If you notice, there's a picture on the front. There's a little bit of room to write a message down here. A lot of people wrote on there, but they call them writing tabs. And an undivided back does not have the line in there. So this is a postcard between 1901 and 1907. Now, the typical themes that during this time that these cards had featured pictures of tourist attractions, landscapes, everyday life scenes, as well as holiday greetings and artistic illustrations. But undivided backs, people do collect those as well. It starts from the oldest to the newest on these eras. The next one is divided back from 1907 to 1915. The introduction of divided back in 1907 when the law changed. Europe was doing some of this already. Allowed for the back of the postcard to be split into two sections, one for address and one for personal message. This change greatly increased the popularity of postcards as a means of communication. This is a Tuck postcard. Raphael Tuck is a manufacturer artist of it. This is an oil lead. Not for sure what it is. Houses of Parliament, London, is what this one is. But on the back, if you notice, there's a stamp box, there's a divided line. This side you put the address, this side you can put the message. That's a divided back. Be careful, some undivided backs, people bought cards in 1906, 1907 before this date, and they were undivided backs. They drew their own line when they go to mail them years later. Do you make it a divided back then if they put their own line, or do you make it an undivided back? But the typical themes for divided back postcards include holidays, birthdays, greetings, humor, Art Nouveau designs. Postcards from this era often depicted city views, landmarks, and travel destinations. So they're common out there. There's a ton of these out there. I sell the heck out of these divided backs along with the other ones. Then we get into the most elusive one, I think, with the requirements and how they did the eras. This is the white border. I sometimes have to touch the white borders. A white border card has a white border on it. It's smoother. It doesn't have a waffle texture, and it has a divided back and a stamp box. Postcards from this era feature a white border on the image. The design choice was primarily to save ink and reduce production costs during World War I. The back remained divided for address and message. I have also been told they put the white around here because we didn't have the skilled workers like they did in Germany and stuff, and we destroyed their plants, and that they didn't cut them as good, so they want to cut the image and they didn't want the ink to bleed, and plus to save ink and stuff like that. I've heard different things, but a white border is a smoother on there, and this was 1931, so that's 1930. Remember, the postmark is just tells me one thing: this card was made before the postmark date. So this is a white border postcard. The typical themes for those popular subjects include small town scenes, rural landscapes, domestic life, patriotic themes reflecting the impact of World War I. Then we get into people wanted vibrant inks, dry fast. The ink on paper didn't dry as fast, but they found they use a higher red count in the paper. They can get more ink, more vibrant colors, and they created the linen. And the reason they call it linen, the linen postcards were printed on paper with textured linen-like finish. It's not made out of sheets, making the colors more vibrant and the images more durable. This texture, along with the advancements in printing technology, gave these cards a distinctive look and feel. Now, a linen card, sometimes I still got to touch these. You can't really see it, but you can tell. A lot of times you can tell with the vibrant colors, the blue, the red on there. But it also has a waffle-like feel to it. Little lines going this way like you would see on a sheet, and a lot of times you can feel it. This one I can't feel it as much, but I can see it. You probably can. It does have a divided back, stamp box, and a little message up here. So it's got a postcard back. But the linen came out on there and often featured exaggerated colors, artistic interpretation of the famous landmarks. Cars don't look like cars. Sometimes they're really colorful and they look, I don't know, they don't look like real cars. Travel destination, large letter greetings, and comic and novelty images. You'll see a lot of those in there. Now then, as the linens were taken off, and Kurt Tyke was doing a lot of that and out there, along came photochrome, chrome as we call them. I think it was a linen killer, is how I read it and interpret the history of it. Linens probably would have went further if chrome didn't come out as soon. Photochrome or chrome era began with the introduction of color photography on postcards. These postcards feature glossy surfaces, high quality photographic images providing a realistic representation of the subject. This is a chrome card. I like these. This is the most I sell. It's got a divided back, stamp box, address and message, and a little message up here. That makes a postcard back. That is a chrome card. We all know, pretty well know what those are. On the chromes, typical themes for these: modern travel destinations, tourist attractions, cityscapes, celebrities, events, and virtually any subject that can be photographed, you're going to find on a chrome card. So remember, I don't really pioneer in private mailing cards. I leave those in a separate world. I work basically from divided back to chrome, but you got undivided back, divided back, white border, linen, and chrome. What are we missing? Not real photo, that's a type of postcard. It started in 1903 to about 1930. What about continental postcards? People talk about continental. Well, that's a type of postcard, but it's done in a chrome era. The characteristics of a continental postcard. Continental postcards measure 6 by 4 inches or 10 by 15 centimeters, making them larger than a standard American size postcards, which are typically 3.5 by 5.5. You need to get to know the sizes: 6 by 4 continental, 3.5 by 5.5 standard. The term continental became popular in the 1950s and 60s, as these postcards were commonly used in Europe. Again, Europe was doing it before we did. Over time, the larger size was adopted worldwide, including in the United States. Continental postcards usually have glossy finishes and produced using modern colors and technology. This is a continental card with a scalloped edge. It's got like a little rolling bumps on it. So scallop says 4 by 6, 6 by 4 inches. And it's got a postcard back. Divided back, stamp box, little message, the whole works. Continental postcards gained popularity after the World War II as international travel increased and people sought larger, more vibrant images to send back home because they were doing it in Europe. The size became a standard in many countries outside of North America, aligning with the global expansion of tourism and availability of color photography. Today, continental postcards are widely used for their aesthetic appeal and practicality, offering more space for images and text compared to traditional size postcards. They represent the evolution postcard design that aligns with advances in printing technology and changes in consumer preferences. Now just think about it. You're an advertiser and you put your business on here and you got a little 3.5 by 5 inch card. Well, put a 6 by 4, you can put more stuff on it, more message to the customer. You can do a lot more. You can write more. So continentals were done for that reason. That's why they use them in Europe. You'll see a lot of European cards at that size or bigger. Europeans can be a little different. And you're saying, Mark, that's a lot of information. That's one of the main things you need to learn is those eras. You just need to, as you work with them, it'll come. Now, each of these eras reflect the technological, cultural, and artistic trends of their time, offering a fascinating glimpse into the history and development of communications through postcards. Now, you're saying, how can I remember this? Well, in the Ko-Fi store, I have these things here. Now, this one is a card, and you can download these and print them out for free. Or if you would like card, I can mail you one. Just basically, I think it's $1.50, $1.25 or something, because it's the price of the card and mailing it. And I put them in a semi-rigid top loader, and I have it right here because I can't remember the dates. So this one has all the arrows I just talked about and the dates. This other one that will be useful, we'll talk about later in another widget video, is stamp boxes for real photo postcards. If you have an ASO stamp box with squares in all corners, that was pretty well made between 1927 and 1940s. These are the most popular, most frequent ones I see, and we'll talk about in that widget video. There's a site that you can go out and view those. But if you want these cards and download them for free, just go sign up in the Ko-Fi store. You don't have to be a member or pay for it, just download it and print it off. Or if you want one of these cards, just purchase it and I'll mail it out to you with a stamp and a label and stuff like that. That's all there is about eras. Get to know eras if you're going to make postcard reselling or collecting. It's very important. Remember the first three things I always talk about: eras, how you're going to do your inventory, and scanning, cameras or whatever. Those are really the key to a lot of this, and how you're going to store them too. We're going to talk about all that coming up in these widget videos. Hope this helps. Hope you like these videos. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that little bell icon so you can know when I put these out, and hopefully it'll be a bi-weekly thing going forward. Might take me a little bit to get kick-started, but in a couple months I should have all this figured out. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.